Lots of news coming from AEW, man. So their TV deal, it looks like the TV deal is coming sooner rather than later. The exclusive window with WBD is at the end of July. There was a report out which I think people took the wrong way from Mark Bellany. They really like read way too much into the disappointment. Look, if somebody makes me an offer and I don't accept it, I guess naturally that's disappointing, right? Like, so like, yeah, it wasn't what I wanted. Let's keep negotiating. That doesn't mean that Tony Khan was like, oh my, like his heart was broken. But as you can see, the grifters and aggregators went apeshit all over this thing, trying to make it seem like there was like bad blood between the two sides, which was just not the case.
No, I mean, that's clear. People don't know what negotiations are like. Secondly, well, is the people missed the whole point of Bellany's article. It wasn't to slam Tony Khan. It was to talk about how incompetent David Zaslav is. The whole thing was about he's going to bungle another. That was the exact quote. Zaslav's going to bungle another media rights deal after they fucked up the NBA. So how you could spin that into, oh my God, Tony Khan screwed up again. Like, you have to be another level of grifter. You have to be you got to go full bit off to do that. I mean, it's unfortunate that that's what happened, but I mean, there's so much money in the grift right now. There's so much money in the AEW doom and gloom. There's so many people that want to carry water for rapists that it's disappointing, but not surprising.
Yeah. I think right now, what it's looking like is they're very likely to get a deal done. It's probably going to happen this summer. If it doesn't happen with WBD, it's going to happen elsewhere. But I think there's a lot of pressure on David Zaslav to get this deal done because he blew the NBA deal with NBA going to Comcast. So I think it's that now what they're arguing about right now, or not arguing, but what they're negotiating are just more semantics and fine details, right? Like, our pay-per-view is going to be provided, or what are we pushing to Max? Is it a co-stream deal? Like those types of things. And I think AEW would be wise to want their show maybe not co-streamed, but as we saw last night, how did you watch AEW last night? Because I'll tell you how I watched AEW.
Oh, you watched it differently than I did. I watched on the crappy TBS app.
Yeah, I watched it on Twitter because the AEW on TNT Twitter account like shared the live stream. I don't know if they're just testing something out or what, but I think at this point it would be wise for any type of live sports. You could be on a cable network or a broadcast network, but you need to be co-streamed on some type of streaming service. And I think that would be like the best for everybody. So I'm thinking like some of those details are getting hammered out right now. And I think Andrew Zarian was kind of talking about that on him and Garrett's show earlier this week. So like the deal's coming. They're just trying to figure out all the facts and figures and exactly what's going to be included.
Here's the thing about people get Zaslav, worry. CEOs, when they don't do a good job, get axed all the time, right? It's not crazy to think that the shareholders, who are not going to be happy with losing the NBA, by the way, it's not crazy to think that if he bungles more of these things that he could be gone. Because the WBD shareholders have not been thrilled with the moves he's made the past 2 years. So it's entirely possible that he needs to make a deal. It'd be stupid of him to let AEW go. I mean, you could bitch about the Raiders all you want, but I mean, it's still one of the best. Like Dave just posted today, like it's still out. AEW Dynamite, which is still down, is still outperforming everything else on cable TV that's not live sports, especially when it comes to like year-to-year drops. They're still ahead of the curve.
It's a major hit on cable.
It is.
It is a huge success. Dynamite specifically, huge success. And Collision and Rampage not as successful clearly, but they're all like they perform pretty well for what they are. But AEW Dynamite is an absolute like smashing success, and nobody really wants to admit that, and that's why they're going to get the big raise. Concerning behavior regarding Tony Khan, I'll be honest, I heard this early in the day, but it was like early in the day on Sunday. But it was from somebody that doesn't really like report news. So I didn't really put much stock into it, but then I think like Alvarez was talking about it and several other people were talking about it, that Tony Khan, like up until Dynamite was about to go on the air, was like ripping up scripts like he's Vince McMahon in 2019. And you can tell if you go back and watch some of the shows, specifically the Adam Cole segment, when he was basically out there with no idea what he was about to talk about. He was just stalling for time until MJF got out there. It seemed like he was a bit lost. That show was pretty wacky, Double or Nothing. While I still like enjoyed most of it, it was kind of a shit show, to be honest with you,
Oh,
which
yeah.
reminded me of a tweet that I made at Conrad Thompson. And Conrad Thompson was saying that Jeff Jarrett should be running AEW. And I said, well, look, there's run-ins every show and business is down. Are you sure he isn't running AEW? To which he did not reply to that, by the way. He
so bummed. So bummed you didn't get a response to that. No, that show, yeah. I mean, like, here's the problem. I was talking about this with someone we know. The problem with AEW right now is that there's this heavy WWE lean going on in the company. Things started to change over there when Jimmy Jacobs came in, right? Jimmy Jacobs, I made my bone. This show is called the Mike and JD Show, not Brace for Impact, because I had my fill of Jimmy Jacobs, right? The Coven, like Taylor Wilde dealing out the tarot cards during a match broke me. On this show live, I broke. And then almost immediately after he came to AEW. Since that's happened, it seems like the room, there is a writer's room there, is gone very heavy with former WWE people. Now that the Pepperman is over there too, now you've got it even more. So there's not enough non-WWE voices in that room. There's not enough people saying, hey, man, maybe don't do this. It doesn't seem to be that there's people talking about, hey, we're going to do this in this match, because all you had to do is present the 7 or the 10 matches and say, hey, so these are going to have distractions and interference for you to go, maybe you don't do that. There's massive, massive communication issues there right now. And there's way too many people with WWE training, we'll say, WWE tendencies. And, I think the American Dragon is just as guilty as anybody else over there. Here's what I find funny. The Gauntlet ruled last night. The Gauntlet absolutely ruled.
That's one of my favorite television matches in years.
Ever.
To be honest, I love that match so much.
Our boss, Joe Lanza, called it like the Royal Rumble with just the good surprises. And it kind of was. Like, I'm like, this was a lot of fun, because again, Hechicero and Mystico come out, Leo Rush. It was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it's so funny to me that Sean Ross Sapp asked to tweet, Tony Khan was directly responsible for the Casino Battle Royal. And I'm like, oh, you think the guy who runs the company is the booker? Is in charge? And like, had this idea? Get out of here. Theory. I do have a theory on why that information came out, because all the information comes from Tony. I think that because there was such positive response to it, like, they want people to know that. I think there's a war. War might be a harsh term. I think there's some infighting going on over what the direction is. And I think there are people that would rather it be more what it was around Revolution and Dynasty than it is right now in Double or Nothing, where it is way heavy in the WWE lean, excuse me. We need to tell these people, your Jimmy Jacobses, your Peppermans, to shut up.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. If I want to watch WWE, I'm going to fucking watch WWE. I don't want to watch WWE. I want the Gauntlet, stuff like that every week. Just give me that.
Yeah, just give me, like, can you just be awesome? Like that, like, all I want you to do is be awesome. I don't want you to have Jericho and Large Bill and what's the other guy's name? Brian Keith in front of a fake tree.
I like Brian Keith. That was terrible.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't want that, right? I don't want bad Mercedes Moné promos. Like, she only gets like 2 sentences, and that's all I want to hear out of her. But I want to watch her wrestle because she's awesome.
She's awesome.
Her and Willow tore it down, dude.
Dude, that was a great match. And it took. Someone said it took a little while to get going. I'm like, I disagreed. I enjoyed it from like the dawn. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. I don't understand this need to like go, well, WWE does this, so we should do this. I mean, like, no, you should have a Bible written. This is what WWE does. Do the opposite every week. So let's talk about this real quick. I'm going to throw this at you. You're a child of the 80s. Do you remember New Coke?
Yes.
Is that before your time? So New Coke, for you younger millennials and Gen Zers, in the 1980s, Coca-Cola, biggest soft drink company in the world, changed its formula because Pepsi was an upstart and they started taking away some market share. Not a lot of market share, just enough market share to make Coke change their formula to something that tasted more like Pepsi. The fan base, the consumer base, freaked out. There were boycotts and people made a big deal, and then they had a triumphant return of Coke Classic. Now I've heard conspiracy theories saying that was a big setup. They lost a lot of money, so I don't necessarily believe that. Here's the thing. Coca-Cola is the number one soft drink company in the world with Coke. Like, if you live in the South, you don't even call soda or pop, as we call it here in the Midwest. You call it all Coke. It's all Coke, and there's various stages of Coke, right? They just one thing, Coke, Diet Coke, boom. Pepsi, is really good at being a challenger brand. Pepsi itself is never going to have Coke's numbers, right? But Pepsi does really well being Pepsi. They're very strong number 2. Pepsi also offers Mountain Dew, something that the Coca-Cola company doesn't have an equivalent of. So then they're able to eat up market share based on the fact that, hey, we are Mountain Dew as well as Pepsi, right? So they're able to diversify their portfolio enough to be a strong challenger without having to chase Coke and do exactly what Coke does. Pepsi is strong enough to be Pepsi. Yeah. And to stay in their lane. And they have, like, Coke is never going to change their logo, right? They've had that logo since the 1920s, I want to say. Pepsi changed theirs a few years. Mm-hmm. That's what they do, right? They stay strong with Mountain Dew. They stay strong with Pepsi. Pepsi knows what it is, and it knows it's never going to beat Coke. Coke is a cultural thing, especially in the South. But Pepsi is very fine being Pepsi. Why AEW will not just be Pepsi, I'll never understand. Taco Bell's never going to be McDonald's. Taco Bell's very happy being Taco Bell. Why do we have to chase the market leader instead of just doing our own thing and establishing our own brand and our own fans that are different than those fans? This is the things that perplex me.
Yeah. JD, I think it's because Tony Khan really likes Coke.
That's the problem.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you fell right into it. It
took me a second. Like after I saw the look on your face, I went, let's go with Michael.
Tony Khan, don't sue me. That's a joke. Okay, don't sue me. I think when other people have made that joke, like people try to come after them for slander. I'm just making a joke, guys. Come on, just tell a joke. Got some more AEW news, and then we'll get to the Sean Merriman interview. And I want to get to the chat, guys. Chat. I promise I'm getting to the chat tonight. So MJF is back, man. I really like that. Joe and I actually, my cousin Joe and I, we actually recapped Double or Nothing this past Monday on Memorial Day, so that was really cool. MJF is back. He wasn't on Dynamite this week, but he's going to be coming back up this coming up Wednesday on Dynamite, man. But I think MJF being back, if he is going to be serious MJF and he's going to be filled with hate, count me in. But if he goes back to silly stuff, count me all the way out.
Agree 100%. It sure seemed like that whole promo was, guys, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I got carried away. I'll be a dickhead again because that's what you guys like. So if he is, I mean, like, his sensibilities will always skew to the sports entertainment. Is also responsible for some really good stuff. The feud with Cody was really good, even though it kind of just ended weirdly. The Punk feud was one of my favorite things in 2022. Right, I adored that whole thing. So the man is capable of really great work. He's, you know what they need over there? They just need an editor. They need a guy who can sit there and say no, who's not afraid to be an asshole. Huh?
John Muse.
I thought you said Tony Danza at first. I'm like, that'd be an interesting call.
No, they need the guy from Who's the Boss.
Who's the Boss?
Yeah, maybe they'll hire Alyssa Milano too. Yeah,
I'd be okay with that. Yeah, they need a guy. I'm not going to advocate for our friend, but I believe that. But they need a guy who's not afraid to be a dick and say, no, this is stupid, or no, this is too many interferences, or no, this is too much. It doesn't make sense, right? Yeah. They just need someone there who can tell people no. That was the best thing at Vince. I mean, like, we bury Vince up and down. Vince had no problem telling his talent no.
Yeah,
you need that.
Yeah. Well, leadership, and that's been the tough thing in this company. Like, people don't want to be the bad guy, but you need to be a leader at some point. And whether or not you delegate that authority to somebody else, but somebody's got to be leading the ship, right? And somebody that has to be thick-skinned, that can have tough conversations with people. And that seems to be the constant with this company, is that they don't want to have those tough conversations with people. They'd rather avoid it and hope it just goes away, which it typically does, and it just festers and then it explodes. Couple more AEW topics before we get to the chat. Ospreay versus Swerve at Forbidden Door. I was really caught off guard by that. I did not think that Ospreay was going to win. I assumed, this is just Mike. Mike was booking, and so sometimes when Mike's booking and they don't book what I book, I get upset about it. I can't get mad at a Swerve versus Ospreay match, though. Like, I don't see why I could get mad about that. That's going to be awesome. It's just not when I would have done it. I was just thinking, it's Forbidden Door. The Swerve was defending the title against somebody from either New Japan or CMLL. That's what I thought was going to happen. But instead, we're just going to go AEW versus AEW for the Forbidden Door show.
I think the problem is like, and we had this last year. Did anybody in their right mind think Sonata was going to lose to the Jungle Boy?
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I would rather have matches where there's a possible, because now, if let's say it was Swerve versus Mystico, that's a big match on paper. But is there any way Mystico is lying down for Swerve?
That one I could see Mystico losing, but but that one is a tough one because he really is the top star in CMLL.
Yeah, they want to let him happen. Like, no, I think that they need to. I think that booking. This is the biggest match AEW can for us right now.
Yeah.
Right. There's not a bigger match that they can give at the moment. So now you have this card with some stakes. Now people are excited. The fan base is excited because, like, you're either going to have cement Swerve as the champ, or you're going to go with the Ospreay movement, right? Either way, there's going to be good stuff. So I think this is better than having a lame duck match, right? That we know there's not going to, that we know, like, you put Shingo against Swerve, that would be really fun, but no one thinks Shingo's going to beat Swerve for the title. Ospreay could win the belt.
Yes.
Or Swerve could just defeat Will Ospreay. And there's no wrong decision here. I'm a big fan of all this, man. I really am.
This is the first match, like pay-per-view match, that I've seen in a while where I can't predict the outcome. Because honestly, ultimately they're going to go with Ospreay at some point. I don't know that they're ready to give up on Swerve as the champion. So then it's like, what do you do? And I think that's the interesting part. And these two guys are just going to tear it down, right? Like, they know each other. They want to have match of the night. But then that the trouble of Forbidden Door, like the idea behind Forbidden Door is crossover matchups, and this is just not a crossover matchup. So, but that's more of a nitpick. You know what I mean? It's not like an actual gripe. That's a nitpick, is what I would say. Nitpicking it a little bit. Should they have saved it for All In? Unless Will Ospreay is winning the title, you don't put that on All In. You just don't, right? And so there's lots of ways they could do it. We've heard people like, well, maybe they could just screw Will Ospreay. I'm like, well, I don't think you screw Will Ospreay because Swerve's a babyface unless you're turning him heel. Like, why would you screw Will Ospreay in the main event of a huge pay-per-view? I don't think you want to close the show like that unless Moxley's closing the show, which could happen.
I don't know for sure. It could be they're doing the thing with Evil right now. That whatever. I think I had the hunch it'll be Mox and Naito. No, I don't have any inside information. It just makes sense. So if you close the show with Mox and Naito wins the belt back, I'm fine with that. Like, I mean, you can't go wrong either way. I don't know, man. I just think doing the crossovers sound cool, but it comes to the titles, like, it's not going to trade. It's not going to change hands. So I'm kind of like, I'd rather see a match with unpredictable outcomes. As opposed to like a for sure thing, Well, if they're going to continue doing Forbidden Door, eventually they're going to have to, like, somebody from outside AEW is going to have to win that title at Forbidden Door. They just got to do it, and that would make it a much more appealing show because you're right. Ooh. The matches have been more predictable. Well, New Japan honestly is going to be sitting in the cuck chair for this Forbidden Door because I think CMLL has got a lot more momentum in the States than New Japan does right now. You know what I mean? So that's why I was like, you could throw Mystico in there, and look. Mystico wins. You could flip it back to him. That nobody gets hurt. It's still Mexico where guys don't like to do jobs though. Like, like the very like it's he doesn't like to lose, like Mystico's a tough guy to put that belt on. Mystico sounds perfect for AEW because Tony Khan loves guys that don't want to lose. That damn Malachi Black, his back issue is still going strong. He couldn't tap because there's something going on with his arm. He couldn't get pinned because there's something going on with his back. So he just fell asleep. And like because Malachi Black will not do a freaking normal job. Now Adam Copeland's leg is destroyed. Like, I'm convinced that's why that happened. Yeah, that was my next story, man. Poor Adam Copeland on the run of his life, close to 50. Having just awesome matches and great segments after great segments. Now, people can say whatever they want about that cage match that he had with Malachi Black. Personally, Child of the 90s, I kind of dug it. But I get why people wouldn't like it. Look, I also don't like bringing in tables and weapons inside of a cage match because I feel like you guys are already cheating a little bit with the barbed wire and the steel cage. Let the other guys have that's a continuity issue, and I think they need to clean that up. But like, if you just individualize that match, I thought that match was fun to watch. I think when you have I almost call Malister, when you have Malachi Black and Adam Copeland, this is what you're gonna have. That's just what those two guys are. And if everything else was cleaner, if everything else was like Ospreay Roddy, I'd have been fine with this match being what it was. I'm not fine with. Here's the thing with Adam Copeland. This is a dude that is injury prone. His entire career, he has had massive injuries, right? The man has had he's had his neck repaired twice. He's had concussion issues. He's tore his Achilles tendon. Like, he has been hurt a lot. He got hurt early in his WWE coming. This is the second major injury of his comeback run, which is only like 4 years ago. So, I mean, like, this is leadership again. At some point, Pat Buck or whoever agent in that match has to go, Adam, maybe jumping off the top of the cage and landing on your feet is a bad idea. Maybe no. Maybe just do a splash and we can say, oh, he dove under the barbed wire. He hurt himself to hurt Malachi. The elbow, not a good move. It looked like shit. And now you have a broken leg.
Yeah. And now we need a new TNT champion, and King of the North, I think, has a good idea. Put the TNT belt on Mystico. You got to clear that through Court Bauer, who currently has his middleweight title on Mystico. But yeah, no, I think
that belt is done. There's not a ghost chance in hell Mystico is ever putting over someone from the MLW roster. Like, that'll get stripped or forgotten about, or it'll be like a Mexican. Like, Mexico titles don't matter. So, I mean, like, who cares?
No. Yeah. And before I get to the chat, just one last thing. I just want to cover Mark Henry, Arn Anderson, and Jake Hager have all now left AEW. They're kind of like, well, I think Mark Henry came a little bit later, but Anderson and Jake Hager, they're like OGs. They were there almost not day one, but like pretty close, right?
I think Anderson came in like, I want to say 19. Right, or like early 20, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
and Jake Hager was first Dynamite when he showed up. So, I honestly, neither of those three guys has done much. I know they tried to do stuff with Mark Henry, like it just didn't fit. Like, he wasn't a very good announcer. He wanted to do more like backstage type stuff, and I have no idea how. None of us know how that worked out. But it seems like he's not burying Tony on the way out. So I'm going to assume that it just wasn't a great fit after a while. And Arn, when Cody left, he had nothing to do. And quite frankly, when given opportunities to be Arn Anderson, he just isn't Arn Anderson anymore.
Yeah. And like, I think Arn's going to go right back and do some stuff with Cody, but I don't think WWE is going to use him very often. I know Arn didn't really get along with Vince, and he seems like he's like a Triple H guy to me. But he's a loyal soldier. I think he'll go back to WWE. Mark Henry's probably going to go get himself a Legends deal. And Jake Hager, look, you guys keep tweeting at me, and you keep bullying me and harassing me and hazing me online. Jake Hager is not going to TNA. They've had an opportunity to have that guy, and they passed on him before, and he went to Lucha Underground. And then as he left Lucha Underground, he had the opportunity to pick him up before he went to AEW, and he went to AEW. He ain't coming. The guy offers nothing. He is an amazing, amazing wrestler. Not professional wrestler. I'm talking like actual wrestler. The guy is a stud. He's just not a star. He just isn't. He just could never figure out how to put it all together.
Not very charismatic.
Honestly, the only thing I could think of that he could do is go back to NXT, kind of like what Sean Spears and Ethan Page just did. Well, I take it, but Ethan Page was never in NXT before, but like they need more veteran talent to work with their younger talent. I think Jake Hager mechanically is like good as far as like in-ring mechanics go. The guy just doesn't really come across as a star. So I think that he could go there and like work with some of those young talents, and he could probably put them through a hell of a workout and teach them some shooting stuff that he knows from his days in Oklahoma. Right. So I think he could do that stuff, but I just don't see him being like a TV wrestler and being successful.
Me neither. I mean, it's whatever. It's Jake Hager.
Yeah. But you know what? I just want to say Tony Khan has heat with me forever for making QT Marshall the manager of Powerhouse Hobbs instead of Mark Henry. My idea was much better. I pitched the idea. Nobody listened to me. Mark Henry is a great promo. He was a great heel in WWE. His heavyweight championship run was awesome. And then his heel turn on John Cena is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in wrestling. I would have had Mark Henry out there side by side with Powerhouse Hobbs, kind of like, Vader and Harley Race. That's kind of the way I saw it. I thought that would have been a great mix. So, I think he goes back, does WWE Legend stuff, but it would not shock me since TNA has already hired half the Busted Open crew to see Mark Henry show up in TNA at some point and do something. Like, I don't know what he would do, but like do a shot here and there. You know what I mean?
Sure. Why not?